Discovering the mystery. It was a particularly dreary Tuesday morning when Harry first noticed something was amiss at Hogwarts. They were sitting in the Great Hall, picking at their breakfast while trying to ignore the way some Hufflepuff first years kept staring and whispering about their appearance. Honestly, you'd think these kids had never seen someone questioning their gender identity before. Pass the marmalade, would you? Harry asked Ramad, who was currently facing east and muttering his morning prayers over his halal breakfast selection that the house elves had specially prepared. The Al-Waziri family had been very specific about dietary requirements. "One moment, Habibi," Ramad replied, finishing his prayer with a flourish. "Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar." His voice echoed through the Great Hall, causing several students to drop their forks and stare nervously. A few Slytherins at the far table started whispering among themselves. "Ramad," Harry whispered urgently, "maybe you could pray a bit more quietly. People are starting to." "Allahu Akbar." Ramad shouted even louder, apparently not hearing Harry's concern. "Sorry, my friend, but Allah commands us to proclaim His greatness. The Kuffer can deal with it." Hermione looked up from her copy of Dismantling the Wizarding Patriarchy, a comprehensive guide, and rolled her eyes. "Honestly, Ramad, you're making everyone uncomfortable. Not that I care about their comfort. Mind you, the patriarchal structure of this school is far more offensive than your religious expression. Did you know that Hogwarts was founded by 4 wizards, 3 of whom were men? Classic patriarchal power structure designed to oppress women and non-binary individuals. Actually, Hermione, Harry said carefully, one of the founders was Helga Hufflepuff, who was a woman. Don't mansplain to me. Hermione snapped, then caught herself. Oh wait, sorry Harry. I mean, don't be person-splained to me. We really need better gender-neutral terms for calling out oppressive behavior. Anyway, 1 woman out of 4 founders is still a 3-to-1 ratio favoring the patriarchy. It's statistically significant evidence of systemic oppression. Harry was about to respond when they noticed something odd. Professor Flitwick was walking unusually quickly past their table, his tiny legs working overtime as he hurried toward the staff table. More interesting was the fact that he kept glancing nervously at the 3rd-floor corridor entrance. "Did you see that?" Harry asked, nudging Ramad, who was now unwrapping what appeared to be a prayer rug. "See what, Archie? I must prepare for my next prayer. The Prophet, peace be upon him, commands us to pray 5 times daily, and I will not let the Western decadence of this school interfere with my religious duties." Ramad, several students shouted from the Ravenclaw table. "Could you please keep it down? The truth cannot be silenced." Ramad declared, standing up and gesturing dramatically. "Islam is the one true faith, and I will proclaim it from the rooftops. Allahu Akbar." Professor McGonagall hurried over, looking frazzled. "Mr. Al-Waziri, while we absolutely respect your religious expression and would never dream of interfering with your faith, heaven knows we've had enough sensitivity training about that. Perhaps you could practice your devotions in a slightly less vocal manner. Are you discriminating against my religion, Professor?" Ramad asked, his eyes narrowing. "Because I know my rights as a Muslim student in this institution." "Oh no, no, no," McGonagall said quickly, looking panicked. "We would never. Your religious freedom is paramount. I was just suggesting." "The patriarchal authority structure strikes again," Hermione announced loudly, slamming her book down. A white woman professor trying to silence a Muslim student's religious expression. This is exactly the kind of intersectional oppression I was reading about. Miss Granger, I assure you that's not. Don't try to gaslight me, Professor. I know oppression when I see it. You're probably upset because Ramad's prayers are disrupting the male-dominated power structure of this breakfast ritual. Did you know that in many cultures, communal eating is used as a tool of patriarchal control? McGonagall looked like she was developing a migraine. I need to speak with Professor Dumbledore about this. She hurried away, muttering something about conflict resolution workshops and cultural sensitivity seminars. Harry watched this exchange with growing fascination, but their attention was drawn back to Professor Flitwick, who was now whispering urgently to Professor Sprout. Both teachers kept glancing toward the third floor. "Guys," Harry said, trying to redirect their friend's attention. "Something's definitely going on. Look at how nervous the teachers are." Hermione followed Harry's gaze and immediately switched into analytical mode. "You're right. This is clearly another manifestation of the school's patriarchal hierarchy keeping secrets from the students. They probably don't trust us because we represent a threat to their established power structure." Or, Ramad suggested, pausing in his rug-rolling, it could be a test from Allah. The Quran teaches us that trials come to those who believe. Perhaps this is our jihad, our struggle to uncover the truth. "Please don't say jihad so loudly," Harry whispered, noticing how several students had gone pale. "People don't understand." "I will not be silenced by Islamophobia," Ramad declared. "This is exactly the kind of oppression that Muslims face daily." Allahu Akbar. A first-year Hufflepuff actually fell off his bench. Okay, Harry said quickly, let's just focus on figuring out what's happening. Maybe we should investigate the third floor. Absolutely not, Hermione said firmly. Any investigation we conduct must be done through proper channels that don't reinforce the patriarchal power structure. We should form a committee with equal gender representation. But there are only 3 of us, Harry pointed out. Then we need to recruit more members to ensure adequate representation across all marginalized identities. We'll need someone who represents the LGBTQ+ community. That's you, Harry said. Someone who represents religious minorities. That's Ramad. Someone who represents gender minorities. That's me. And someone who represents racial minorities. We should ask Professor Snape, Ramad suggested. He could represent the African diaspora perspective. Professor Snape? Harry asked, surprised. You want to ask Professor Snape to help us investigate a mystery? Why not? He may use politically incorrect language, but his marginalized identity gives him unique insights into the oppressive structures of this institution. I don't think Professor Snape would describe himself as marginalized, Harry said carefully. That's internalized oppression, Hermione explained. Many people from marginalized communities don't recognize their own oppression because they've been conditioned by the dominant power structure. It's actually quite sad. Look, Harry said, trying to get them back on track, whatever's happening on the third floor, it's got all the teachers worried. Don't you think we should at least try to find out what it is? Only if we approach it through an anti-oppression framework, Hermione insisted. Any investigation must be conducted with full awareness of how power structures operate to exclude marginalized voices. Inshallah, we will uncover the truth. Ramad added enthusiastically. Allah guides those who seek justice. Allahu Akbar. This time, a group of Slytherin 70ers actually got up and left the Great Hall entirely. Ramad, Harry said desperately, maybe you could express your faith a little more quietly. You're making people nervous. The truth makes people uncomfortable, Ramad replied sagely. That is why the Prophet, peace be upon him, faced such persecution. If my worship makes the Kuffar uncomfortable, then I am clearly doing something right. They're not uncomfortable because of your faith, Harry tried to explain. They're uncomfortable because you keep shouting. Victim blaming. Hermione interrupted. You're literally engaging in victim blaming right now, Harry. Ramad is being oppressed by the Islamophobic atmosphere of this school, and instead of supporting him, you're asking him to modify his behavior to accommodate his oppressors. And not. This is exactly how the patriarchy maintains control, Hermione continued, warming to her theme. They convince marginalized people that they're the problem, that they need to change their behavior to fit into oppressive systems. It's disgusting. Harry rubbed their temples, feeling a headache coming on. Okay, fine. Can we at least agree that something suspicious is happening on the third floor? Suspicious to whom? Hermione asked. We need to interrogate the very concept of suspicious behavior. Who defines what's suspicious? Usually, it's the dominant power structure labeling anything that threatens their authority as suspicious. The teachers are literally running around looking panicked, Harry pointed out. Because they're losing control of the narrative, Hermione replied. The patriarchal authority structure is crumbling, and they're afraid. Or, Ramad suggested, there's actually something dangerous up there. In which case, we have a religious duty to investigate. The Quran commands us to seek knowledge, even if it takes us to China. I don't think the Quran was talking about investigating potentially dangerous magical objects, Harry said. All knowledge is sacred, Ramad replied solemnly. And if there's danger, then it's our jihad to face it. There's that word again, Harry muttered. Are you discriminating against my religious vocabulary? Ramad asked, his voice rising. No. I just think maybe we could use different words that don't make people think of. Think of what? Ramad's eyes narrowed. Are you suggesting that my religion is associated with violence? Because that's exactly the kind of Islamophobic stereotyping that I've been dealing with all my life. Ramad, I didn't mean. This is what I'm talking about. Hermione exclaimed. The way marginalized people are constantly forced to police their own language to make privileged people comfortable. It's emotional labor, and it's exhausting. I'm not, Harry started to shout, then caught themselves. I'm not trying to police anyone's language. I'm just trying to figure out what's happening on the third floor without drawing unwanted attention to ourselves. Unwanted by whom? Hermione asked. The patriarchal authority structure that wants to keep us ignorant and compliant. Allahu Akbar. Ramad shouted suddenly, apparently having a religious moment. Allah will guide us to the truth. Several Ravenclaw students at the next table packed up their books and left. Okay, Harry said, taking a deep breath. Let's just go to class and think about this more later. You're right, Hermione agreed. We need to develop a comprehensive strategy that addresses all aspects of the oppressive system we're challenging. I'll start by researching the historical context of secrecy in educational institutions and how it's been used as a tool of patriarchal control. And I'll consult the Quran for guidance, Ramad added. There are many verses about seeking truth and fighting oppression. Inshallah, Allah will show us the way. Great, Harry said weakly. That sounds thorough. As they left the Great Hall, Harry couldn't shake the feeling that their investigation was going to be far more complicated than it needed to be. Between Hermione's determination to analyze everything through the lens of oppression and Ramad's increasingly vocal religious expression, they were going to attract more attention than a howler in a library. But something was definitely happening on the third floor, and despite their friends' unique approaches to problem solving, Harry was determined to figure out what it was. After all, they had a feeling that whatever was hidden up there was connected to their family's history and possibly to the mysterious circumstances surrounding their parents' death. The gender-critical stone, whatever it was calling to them. And Harry Potter, regardless of their gender identity, their Muslim best friend's prayer schedule, all their other friends' feminist analysis of everything, was going to find out what it was. Even if it killed them. Which, given the way things were going, seemed like a distinct possibility.